She stood there in the middle of our bedroom, suitcase wide open on the bed, shoving her clothes into it like she couldn't get out of my life fast enough. Her blonde hair, always styled for someone else these past few months, whipped across her face as she hissed at me, "You didn't want to open our marriage, so I'm taking the kids and moving in with my new lover." Her voice wasn't trembling. No. It was sharp, almost gleeful, like she had been rehearsing that line for weeks. "Her name is Jessica, and I used to think she was the love of my life. But in that moment, she looked like a stranger in my house, no, worse than a stranger. A stranger doesn't rip your heart out with a grin on her lips." I stood frozen, unable to process her words. "Moving in with your new lover?" I repeated, my voice cracked, like I was a kid again, about to cry in front of bullies. Jessica didn't flinch. She zipped up the suitcase, snapped it shut, and smirked at me. "Yeah, David. His name is Ryan, and unlike you, he actually knows how to live. He knows how to make me feel wanted. He's giving me freedom, excitement, everything you were too scared to give me." Before I could even breathe, my daughter, Emily, stormed in. 16, almost 17, with the same fire in her eyes Jessica used to have when we first met. But that fire wasn't for me, it was against me. She crossed her arms and spat out words that pierced me deeper than any knife. "We don't need you anymore. My new daddy promised to buy me a car for my 17th birthday, and we're moving to his Beverly Hills mansion." Her tone was dripping with teenage defiance, but behind it was something else. Admiration. She looked at Ryan like he was her hero, and me like I was the pathetic loser who couldn't keep my family together. I swear my heart shattered in that instant. Not just because my wife was leaving me, not just because my daughter had chosen her new daddy over me, but because I realized Jessica had poisoned her against me. She had turned Emily into her weapon. My throat went dry. "Emily, sweetheart, you don't understand." But she cut me off with a glare that could burn through stone. "Don't call me sweetheart. Ryan said you'd try to guilt me. He told me you're jealous of him because he's better than you." That was it. My own daughter, repeating the words of the man who had stolen my wife. Jessica grabbed Emily's hand, like they were some victorious duo walking out of a war zone, dragging my soul with them. And then she delivered her final dagger, calm and cold. "David, you're pathetic. You've been clinging to this boring little life. You wouldn't let me explore, you wouldn't give me what I needed. Now I've got Ryan, and he's giving me everything. So tonight, we're gone. And don't you dare try to stop us." I remember every detail of that scene, the sound of her suitcase wheels clattering against the hardwood floor, Emily's laughter as she mentioned Ryan's name again, the slamming of the front door as they walked out. And me standing there, hollow, staring at the walls of a house that no longer felt like mine. But here's what they didn't know. That night would be their undoing. Because betrayal has a way of lighting a fire in a man's chest, a fire that burns away the weakness, the tears, the confusion. That night, when they left, something inside me snapped into place. They thought they were running to paradise. But little did they know, that night would be the beginning of their nightmare and my rebirth. I couldn't sleep that night. The house felt like a tomb, echoing with Jessica's venom and Emily's betrayal. My chest was tight, and every shadow on the wall looked like a ghost of the family I thought I had. But as I sat there in silence, one question kept hammering through my skull: how long had this been going on? I started replaying everything: Jessica's sudden late nights at yoga, the new dresses she bought and called discount finds, the way she guarded her phone like it was the Holy Grail. I remembered how her perfume lingered in the car even though she swore she hadn't gone anywhere but the store. And Emily, God, Emily, how she started snapping at me out of nowhere, rolling her eyes. Parroting little digs that sounded too polished for a teenager. Those weren't her words. They were Jessica's. Or maybe Ryan's. I went into our bedroom, no, my bedroom now, and tore through her side of the closet. I wasn't looking for clothes, I was looking for the truth. And I found it, tucked inside a shoebox. Receipts. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, spa days. All charged to a card I didn't even know she had. My hand shook as I pulled out one of the slips. A reservation at the Hyatt, 2 weeks ago. She had told me she was staying with her friend Samantha that night because they were having a girls' wine weekend. I could practically hear her voice in my head, fake laughter layered over the lie. And me? I'd believed her. I even sent her a text that night, "Have fun, Jess. Love you." I wanted to punch a hole in the wall. Instead, I kept digging. On the bottom of the box was a folded photo booth strip, Jessica and Ryan. His arm around her, her lips pressed to his cheek, both of them grinning like they had stolen the world. And in a way, they had. They had stolen mine. By morning, I was a different man. Tired, hollow, but determined. I wasn't going to confront her blindly, I needed to know more. So I followed her. The next afternoon, Jessica claimed she was going shopping. She kissed Emily on the forehead and gave me a tight smile, the kind of smile that said don't ask questions. As soon as she left, I got in my car and trailed her. My heart was pounding like I was on some undercover mission, except the enemy wasn't a foreign spy, it was my own wife. She drove across town, straight to a coffee shop. And there he was. Ryan. Mid-30s, tall, slick hair, the kind of guy who thought expensive sunglasses made him a king. He leaned in, kissed her like they were teenagers sneaking out after curfew, and she kissed him back harder, like she had been starving. I sat there, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white, watching the woman I had built my life with wrap herself around another man. I wanted to storm in, drag her out, scream at Ryan until he crumbled. But I didn't. I just sat and let the fire burn deeper. They laughed, touched, whispered things I couldn't hear. At one point, Jessica slid her phone across the table, showing him something. He grinned, then pulled her close, his hand slipping down her back in a way that made my stomach twist. When she finally left, I didn't follow. I couldn't. My whole body was shaking. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. She was living a double life, parading it in daylight, and I had been the fool nodding along. That night, when she came home, I noticed something new. Emily was on her laptop, smiling at a message. When she saw me looking, she slammed it shut and muttered, "None of your business." That was when it hit me. Jessica wasn't just cheating on me, she was building a new world with Ryan, and she was taking my daughter with her, brick by brick. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the image of Jessica kissing him like I was already dead. And somewhere between rage and despair, I decided I wouldn't stay the victim. I didn't know how yet, but I would burn their little fantasy to the ground. She came home the next evening like nothing was wrong, humming to herself as she dropped her purse on the counter. The same purse that probably carried the receipts I'd found. I watched her, every movement, every smug flick of her hair. She poured herself a glass of wine and looked at me with that fake smile, the one I'd seen her give Ryan across the coffee shop table. "So, David," she said casually, "did you pick up the dry cleaning?" I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that comes from humor, but the kind that explodes when the dam breaks. Her eyes narrowed instantly. "What's so funny?" I leaned forward. "You, Jess. You, asking me about dry cleaning like you weren't grinding up against Ryan at a cafe yesterday afternoon. You think I don't see it? You think I don't know?" Her face drained of color for half a second, then hardened. She didn't even flinch long. "You followed me," she spat, venom dripping. "Are you serious right now, David? You're stalking me?" "Stalking?" I barked back. "You've been lying, sneaking around, using my money to wine and dine your little boyfriend, and you're calling me a stalker?" Jessica's lips curled into that smug smirk, the one that used to make me weak but now made me want to smash something. "Maybe if you weren't so boring, so predictable, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. Ryan actually knows how to treat me. He makes me feel alive. Not like you, sitting here with your pathetic little routines." I slammed my fist on the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen. "I gave you everything, Jess. A home. Stability. Loyalty. And you threw it away for some clown with a Beverly Hills zip code and a leased Lamborghini." Right then, Emily walked in. She must have heard us. She looked at Jessica first, then at me with open disgust. Don't yell at Mom. Ryan told us you'd act crazy like this. He warned us you'd try to make us feel guilty. I turned to her, my voice breaking. Emily, I'm your father. Everything I've done has been for you. Don't you see she's poisoning you against me? But Emily just sneered, her arms crossed tight. Ryan's better than you. He promised me a car for my birthday, something you'd never do. He listens to Mom, he actually cares. We don't need you. That was the knife twisting deeper. Jessica put her arm around Emily like they were teammates, united against me. See, David? Even our daughter knows. You're finished. I'm moving on, and so is she. We're done pretending you matter. For a moment, the room spun. My own wife, my own daughter, standing there together, declaring war against me. The betrayal was so thick in the air I could taste it. I stepped closer to Jessica, my voice low, trembling with rage. You want to play house with your new lover? Fine. But don't you dare think I'm just going to disappear quietly. You've lit a fire you can't control. Jessica rolled her eyes, completely unshaken. Oh please. What are you gonna do, David? Cry? Beg? You don't have the backbone to fight me. That's why Ryan's already won. Emily snickered at her mother's words, and I swear, I felt something inside me snap. I looked at the two of them, their smug little alliance, and for the first time, I didn't see my family. I saw enemies. I walked away before I did something I couldn't take back. Locked myself in the study, shaking with rage and heartbreak. Behind the door, I could hear Jessica laughing, actually laughing, like she'd already replaced me and was celebrating the victory. And it was in that moment of silence, staring at the floor with my fists clenched, that I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. If she wanted war, then war was exactly what she was going to get. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Pancakes sizzling on the stove, coffee brewing, her humming again like she hadn't just ripped my heart out the night before. Emily sat at the table scrolling her phone, smirking every time it buzzed with what I could only assume were texts from Ryan. I sat there, staring at both of them, and something inside me shifted. I wasn't looking at my wife and daughter anymore. I was looking at two strangers living in my house, eating my food, mocking me under their breath. And it hit me, this wasn't just betrayal. This was war inside my own walls. Jessica slid a plate in front of me, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Eat up, David. Big day at the office? Or are you going to sit around and sulk like a wounded puppy again? I clenched my jaw. You think this is a game, Jess? You think you get to rub your affair in my face, drag my daughter into it, and I'll just swallow it? She leaned against the counter, crossing her arms with that smug grin. You don't get it, do you? You already lost. I've moved on. Emily's moved on. Ryan is our future now. You're just excess baggage. Emily chimed in without looking up. Ryan says men like you are scared of real men. That's why you're so mad. You're jealous. The laugh that burst out of me startled both of them. It wasn't humor, it was the sound of a man realizing his world was gone and deciding he didn't care about playing nice anymore. Jealous? Of Ryan? The guy who buys your loyalty with promises and shiny toys? The guy who thinks stealing another man's family makes him a man? I shook my head. No, Emily. I'm not jealous. I'm disgusted. Jessica's smile faltered for just a second, then she snapped back. You're pathetic. You don't satisfy me, you don't challenge me, you don't matter. Ryan gives me everything I wanted and more. That's why I'm leaving you, David. Tonight. Her words landed like bullets, but instead of bleeding out, I felt steel replace the pain. Take the bags, Jess. Take the lies. Take your mansion dreams and promises. But don't you dare think you're walking away without consequences. She tilted her head, mocking. Oh, consequences? What are you gonna do, David? Cry to a lawyer?
You're too weak to fight me. That's why Ryan's already taken your place.
Emily slammed her phone down, glaring at me.
I don't want to live with you anymore. Ryan's better. He listens. He understands. He's not a loser like you.
Those words burned deeper than anything Jessica had said. My daughter, my own flesh and blood, spitting venom straight from her mother's mouth. I looked at her, my vision blurring, and all I could think was, Jessica poisoned her completely. Jessica grabbed her suitcase from the hallway, tossing clothes into it without hesitation. Emily followed her lead, dragging her backpack, both of them buzzing with excitement as if they were heading off on vacation instead of tearing a family apart. I stood there, silent, watching them. Jessica noticed the calm in my eyes and mistook it for surrender. She leaned in close as she wheeled the suitcase past me and whispered, "You won't stop me." "You never could." Then the front door slammed, and I was alone. But alone didn't mean broken. Alone meant free. Free to plan. Free to fight. Free to burn their little fantasy world to ashes. Because here's the truth Jessica never understood, she didn't just cheat on me. She declared war on me. And she was about to find out that the man she thought was weak still had more fight in him than she could ever imagine. The silence after they left was deafening. I sat in the living room staring at the empty couch where Emily used to curl up and watch movies with me, before her mother poisoned her against me. I kept replaying her words, "We don't need you anymore." My daughter had chosen a stranger over her father, all because Jessica dangled wealth and glitter in front of her face. For hours I just sat there, numb. My hands shook whenever I picked up my phone, hovering over Jessica's number, but I couldn't bring myself to call. What would I say? Beg her? She'd laugh. Plead with Emily? She'd block me. The helplessness was suffocating, like I was drowning in a pool I didn't know I'd fallen into. But then, while pacing the kitchen, I noticed the box of receipts again. The hotel stays, the dinners, the spa treatments, all bought with cards tied back to our joint accounts. A sick realization sank in, Jessica hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She had been robbing me blind. Using my money to build her new life with Ryan, grooming Emily into believing I was useless. The rage came back like a tidal wave. I stormed into the study, pulled up the bank statements, and there it was, transfer after transfer, funds bleeding out, accounts running thinner than I had ever noticed. She thought she was clever, hiding them behind house expenses and shopping. But I saw the truth now. I grabbed my phone and called my buddy Mark, an attorney I hadn't spoken to in months. When he picked up, I didn't waste time. "Mark, I need everything you've got on divorce law, custody, assets, the works. And I need it fast." He hesitated. "David, what's going on?" "She's gone. Took Emily. She's living with another man. And she's been bleeding me dry. I'm not rolling over for this." There was a pause, then his voice hardened. "All right. You come into my office tomorrow morning. Bring everything, bank statements, receipts, any proof you've got. If she thinks she's walking away clean, she's dead wrong." For the first time in days, I felt a sliver of power return. Proof. That was my weapon. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jessica in Ryan's arms. Saw Emily looking at me like I was nothing. Around 3 a.m., I walked into Emily's room, sat on her bed, and just stared at the posters on her wall. Photos of us at Disneyland, a framed picture from her softball game, the stuffed bear I gave her when she was 10. And now she wanted to throw all of that away for some rich fraud who promised her a car. Tears burned in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. No more weakness. Jessica wanted me destroyed. Ryan wanted me erased. Emily thought I was irrelevant. But they were all underestimating me. The next day at Mark's office, I laid everything on the table: photos, receipts, statements. He whistled low. "David, this isn't just adultery. This is financial exploitation. If we play this right, you can freeze the accounts, secure custody, and lock her out of everything she thinks she's running away with." Hearing that felt like oxygen filling my lungs. Jessica thought she had already won, but she had no idea the game had only just started. That night, when Jessica called me smug as ever, her words were almost a script.
David, we're staying at Ryan's for now. Don't wait up. Emily's happier here. She's finally got the life she deserves. You should just move on.
Her tone was cold, dismissive, the way someone talks to a cashier, not a husband. But I smiled for the first time in days, because she had no clue what was coming.
Sure, Jess. Enjoy your mansion.
I hung up before she could gloat further. Behind that calm voice, I was already moving pieces.
Freezing accounts. Filing papers. Setting traps.
She thought she'd left me powerless, but she was about to find out I wasn't the man she thought she could walk over. And deep down, I knew something else. This wasn't going to end quietly. Jessica had declared war, and I was just beginning to return fire.
The following week was chaos, but not for me.
For the first time in months, I felt like I was steering the wheel instead of being dragged behind it.
My lawyer had filed motions, frozen joint accounts, and set the ball rolling on a custody fight Jessica never saw coming.
The first sign that my counterattack had landed came late at night.
My phone lit up with Jessica's name, and before I could answer, the messages started pouring in.
What did you do, David? Why can't I access the account? Ryan and I had plans this weekend, and you ruined them. I sat in bed, reading each text with a grim satisfaction. Every word reeked of panic. She thought she was untouchable, living large on my dime, and now reality was squeezing her throat. The next morning, she showed up at my house unannounced. She barged in without knocking, her heels clicking on the hardwood like gunshots. Emily trailed behind her, arms crossed, glaring at me like I was the villain in their story.
Jessica's eyes were blazing. You think you're smart, huh? Cutting me off? Freezing me out?
You can't do this to me, David. I leaned back on the couch, calm as stone.
Correction, I already did.
Her face twisted, somewhere between rage and disbelief.
Ryan and I had reservations in Vegas this weekend.
Emily's supposed to get her car next month.
You just blew everything up.
I finally stood, stepping closer, my voice low.
No, Jess. You blew everything up when you decided your family wasn't enough. When you dragged Emily into your lies.
I'm just making sure you don't use me as your personal ATM while you play house with your boyfriend. Emily jumped in, her voice sharp.
Ryan warned us you'd do this.
He said you'd try to ruin Mom's happiness because you're bitter. He told me real men don't get jealous, they just get replaced. I looked at her, really looked at her. My daughter, repeating Ryan's garbage like scripture. My heart cracked, but I forced myself to stay steady.
Emily, one day you'll realize promises aren't love. Cars aren't love. Mansions aren't love. But by then, I let the silence finish the sentence.
Jessica laughed bitterly, masking her panic.
You're pathetic. You think money gives you power? Ryan has more than you ever will.
He's already given us more than you could in your entire boring life. I leaned in so close she couldn't mistake my words.
Then why are you here begging? Jess? If Ryan's such a savior, why does he need my money to fund your fantasy? For once, she had no comeback. Just a flash of panic in her eyes before she masked it with a sneer. She grabbed Emily's arm and yanked her toward the door. We don't need you. Ryan will handle this.
As the door slammed behind them, I knew exactly what that meant.
Ryan was going to try to confront me. And I welcomed it. Because the thing Jessica never understood was this: betrayal doesn't break a man like me. It sharpens him. And when Ryan came knocking, he'd find out I wasn't the pushover Jessica had painted me to be. Ryan didn't waste time.
2 nights later, just as I was locking up the house, I heard the growl of an engine outside. A black sports car pulled up, headlights slicing through the dark. He stepped out like he owned the world, tall, slick, wearing a designer jacket that probably cost more than my mortgage payment.
He didn't even knock.
He strutted right up to my porch, smirking like a man about to collect on a debt. "So you're David," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "The guy who thought he could freeze my money."
I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. Your money? That was my account. My hard work. You've been living off me without lifting a finger.
He stepped closer, chest out.
Correction. Jessica's been living off you.
And now she's living with me.
And Emily?
She sees me as her real father.
You're nothing but a bitter little man trying to cling to what's already mine.
Every muscle in my body screamed to put my fist through his perfect teeth, but I forced myself to stay calm.
Rage without control was exactly what he wanted.
Instead, I leaned against the doorframe, eyes locked on his.
You can buy their loyalty, Ryan. But loyalty bought with gifts is cheap. It doesn't last.
One day, they'll look at you the same way they look at me now, like you're disposable.
His smirk faltered, just slightly. You're just jealous because she chose me.
She didn't choose you, I snapped, the fire finally breaking through.
She chose the fantasy.
She chose the mansion, the car, the shiny toys. If you were a plumber living in a studio apartment, she wouldn't have glanced twice at you.
Don't fool yourself. She doesn't love you, she loves what you can buy her. Same as Emily. That one hit.
I saw it in his eyes. But instead of admitting it, he snarled.
Careful, David. Keep pushing, and I'll make sure you regret it. Jessica belongs to me now. The kid belongs to me. And you? You'll be left with nothing but your bitterness.
I stepped forward until we were nearly nose to nose. My voice dropped to a whisper, steel in every word.
You think you're the first man to try and take everything from me? You're not.
And I promise you this, when it all falls apart, and it will, Jessica will run from you the same way she ran from me.
And Emily? She'll see through you.
I'll still be standing when you're nothing but a bad memory. He shoved me then, hard enough to slam me back against the door. My blood boiled, fists clenching, but I didn't swing.
Not yet.
I just stared into his eyes, letting him see I wasn't afraid. Finally, he sneered, turned back toward his car, and spat over his shoulder.
Enjoy your little power trip. You're finished. The engine roared, and he was gone.
The house was silent again, but this time it wasn't the silence of defeat. It was the silence before a storm. He thought he could intimidate me, but all he did was confirm what I already knew. He was insecure, desperate to prove he'd won.
And desperate men make mistakes.
The cracks in their fantasy showed faster than I expected. A week after Ryan stormed my porch, Jessica called, her voice tight with panic.
David, we need to talk about the accounts. Emily's upset.
Ryan, he can't cover everything right now.
I almost laughed. Can't cover everything right now.
The man with the mansion, the cars, the promises of a brand new world couldn't keep up once the free ride on my back was over.
You made your choice, Jess, I said calmly. You wanted Ryan. You got him. Handle it. And I hung up. The next days were a parade of unraveling.
I heard through mutual friends that Ryan's mansion wasn't even his, it belonged to a business partner who wanted him out.
The sports car? Leased. The promises of cars and gifts? Empty words to dazzle a lonely teenager.
Emily stopped returning my calls, but then one night, she showed up at the house. Her eyes were red, cheeks streaked with tears.
Dad. Ryan's not who Mom said he was. She broke down right there in the doorway.
Apparently, Ryan had screamed at her for asking about the car he'd promised. Jessica defended him, saying, he's under stress, but Emily saw it now.
The cracks. The lies.
She looked at me like she was seeing her real father for the first time in months. I hugged her, though my chest still burned with the betrayal.
You're always welcome here, I whispered. No matter what she told you. No matter what he promised. Jessica, of course, doubled down.
When she found out Emily came back, she showed up drunk, pounding on the door, screaming that I was poisoning our daughter. But the truth was plain for everyone now.
The neighbors saw. The lawyer saw. Even Emily saw.
Ryan faded from her life within weeks. The man who was supposed to replace me vanished when the money dried up and the lies caught up. Jessica tried to crawl back, spitting excuses, begging for one more chance, saying it was all a mistake. But by then, I wasn't the same man she'd walked out on. The betrayal had burned something into me, a strength I didn't know I had. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You packed your bags and left, Jess. You told me I was nothing. Now you get to live with that." The divorce finalized quickly. The house stayed with me. Custody tilted my way after Emily testified about Ryan's outbursts. Jessica? She was left chasing shadows of the life she thought she deserved, clinging to the next exciting man who could never fill the void she created. And me? I rebuilt. Slowly, painfully, but with clarity. I learned that loyalty isn't about glittering promises, it's about actions when no one's watching. I learned that silence can be more powerful than shouting. And most of all, I learned that when betrayal tries to bury you, you can choose to let it, or you can rise from it stronger. If I had one piece of advice for any man standing where I once stood, it's this: don't beg for someone who spits on your love. Don't crumble for someone who feeds you lies. Stand up. Protect your dignity. And never forget, sometimes losing them is the only way to finally win yourself back. Because when Jessica slammed that door, she thought she was walking into paradise. But little did she know, that night was the beginning of her downfall and the start of my freedom.